Hey guys, welcome to the Rubin Report. I am Dave Rubin, and as you can see, we've got a different set here this week, and we are going to do something a little bit different. I have a feeling that most of you guys recognize my guest, Miss Anna Kasparian.
Howdy.
From the Young Turks show. She's the co-host, of course, of the main Young Turks show, and she does a bazillion other things around here, and I thought as sort of like our holiday year-end kind of wrap up of everything that Anna and I would just talk. We've become great friends since I've only been in LA for about 10 months, but Anna has sort of welcomed me in and taken me under her wing, and we've become good friends. And we talk about a lot of private stuff that doesn't
Yes.
get to the cameras, and we thought maybe we can open up in front of the cameras, kind of the way we do behind the cameras. So I'm going to ask Anna a couple questions, she's going to ask me a couple questions, and we will see what happens. So I want to start with this because you were on my show last week.
I was.
And it was a regular show, and one of the things we did is how the belief in God is declining in America.
Yes.
And you've often said that you're agnostic, and Cenk, I think, also is agnostic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the comment section wanted me to ask more about that and find out a little bit more about why you're agnostic. Why don't you go as far to say you're atheist? And then, let's just start with that.
So I certainly don't believe in organized religion as it stands here on this planet. I feel like organized religion has led to more trouble than it has led to actual good things. I mean, the reality is the vast majority of people who are religious in the country are good people. They follow it because they want to believe that, you know, there is life after death. I think it's a coping mechanism. A lot of them do turn to it for morality, to live a wholesome life. I don't think you need religion to live a wholesome life or to be moral. So I just kind of reject the notion of organized religion as a whole. Now, as far as the whole agnostic versus atheist thing, I just feel really uncomfortable calling myself an atheist and pretending as though I know without a shadow of a doubt that there is no higher being. The truth is, I don't know, and no one really knows. Right.
So does that seem kind of hypocritical to you when people say they're an atheist? Because it's sort of saying, like, I know there's nothing, while at the same time, they're, I don't want to say demeaning, but they're sort of marginalizing the people that say, well, I do know there's something automatically.
Yeah, I don't know if hypocritical is the right word. I just feel like it's I don't know if they're being honest with themselves. And look, this is not to criticize atheists. You believe what you believe, right? I just think that no one on this planet understands everything. Yeah. You don't know much about our own galaxy, much less other galaxies. So to pretend as though, oh, we know everything and there is no higher being and it's the end of the story, I just think that you're closing off something that should be explored and discovered more. And that's just my take on it, right? Yeah. So I just do not feel comfortable saying that there is no higher being. I feel comfortable saying that I don't know. And who knows what we're going to discover in the future? Probably not in my lifetime, but it is what it is.
Although I guess if they could prove it, that would be against the whole point, right? Because you're supposed to take this sort of leap of faith. So probably for somebody that's in the line of work that you are, that things are fact-based and you research things, taking that jump of something that you can't tangibly touch is probably sort of doubly hard, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love scientific evidence that proves one thing or another, and right now there is no evidence proving that there is no higher being. So, and there's no evidence.
The evidence is out on that.
By the way, there's no evidence proving that there is or isn't. So it's, I guess the jury is still out on that. So, and I know atheists get really, really angry about that, but again, I'm not judging them for what they believe. If they think that without a shadow of a doubt, there's absolutely no higher being, that's totally fine with me. I just think a little differently.
Yeah. So in the segment we did, it was also talking about belief in aliens and ghosts and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So all of that, you're a non-believer, and until you had evidence.
I think that, I mean, I'm not certain that there are aliens, right? But it would be crazy to think that there aren't aliens. And I'm not saying aliens in the sense of what you see in television and movies.
Right, not little green men necessarily.
Not little green men, but of course there has to be a life form outside of our own planet. I mean, when you really think about the universe, there has to be something. We just haven't discovered it yet. So.
Right. So what would you say to people that would then say, well, they can use that argument for God? Well, that there has to be something bigger than all the things we can understand. Because it's sort of the same argument. I believe in what you're saying. The galaxy's so huge, our sun is so average, there has to be other planets out there. That makes sense to me.
There's a difference between life form outside of our own planet and someone who is manipulating the universe and manipulating our lives. So I just think that those are two completely different things. I mean, I'm talking about microorganisms and, you know, life form that actually makes sense on other planets, you know, that can survive in the conditions that they're living in. But I don't know. Again, I don't know what there is out there, which is why I refer to myself as an agnostic. I don't know if there's a higher being.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say I don't know either. I mean, it's it's the mystery that I think is the cool part of everything. It's the sort of journey you live through to figure it all out. But if you figured it out, you probably wouldn't even want to be here anymore, don't you think?
Yeah, and then you get
be with a bunch of schmucks all day. That would be tough.
With a bunch of schmucks all day. And then also, do you ever think? I mean, I think about the meaning of life all the time. What is life? You know,
what the hell are we doing
What
here?
makes us living beings? And I'm not talking about the physical aspect of it. You know, I'm talking about our personalities. I'm talking about what makes us alive. I don't know. These are all really difficult questions to answer. And to be completely honest with you, it's not something that I sit around and I think about all day long. But, you know, I mean, who knows what there is out there.
All right, well, since we can't get an answer fully.
I wish I knew that question before we filmed this, because I would have had a chance to really think about it and articulate what I believe better. But whatever, I hope
that was
you guys...
pretty solid. By the way, I should mention, and we did not discuss any of these questions, so I don't know what Anna's going to ask me. I did not give her any information as to what I'm asking her.
Yes, that's true.
You're up, sister.
I am up. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about your leap from comedian to talk show host. What was that journey like? How did you get to the point that you're in right now?
Stand-up, I love stand-up. There is nothing as powerful and magical and great and controlling and freeing also as just one guy and a mic and then a room of people that are there to listen to you. It's really incredible. And for people to give you their time is really incredible also. But stand-up is sort of an ends to a means, or a means to an end, I should say, because stand-up you sort of have to get out and go do bigger things. People think it's like 1985 still, and you're going to work the clubs for like 3 years, and then you'll get on the Tonight Show, and if Johnny likes you, you'll get a sitcom, and that's how it used to work with Tim Allen and Roseanne and a zillion of the, Paul Reiser, a zillion of that generation's comedians. But what I realized quickly after doing stand-up for a couple of years was I loved it, but like nobody's going anywhere. There's like this glut of people that start, there was the comedy boom of the 80s, and then around 1990 it just sort of stopped. So all the guys that should have got out and gone into television were stopped partially by reality TV and a bunch of other factors and the internet and all kinds of stuff. So I realized, I was like, I got to figure out some other way out of this. And that's when I started getting into radio, and I had a podcast, and I was doing stuff on Sirius XM. And to me, stand-up is like, when I become big enough and everything that we're doing here keeps growing and all that, like I'll go back and do it. But the idea of like now going to a club every night and like hanging out with a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts just so that I can like make people laugh for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty good, doesn't it sound pretty good? It doesn't appeal to me in that way, so I haven't been doing that much stand-up here, and I've had people asking me to do shows, and I've been doing a few of them, and I do it now more for fun at the moment than for the quest, because I think a lot, George Carlin said something really great about stand-up. It's like, you have to sort of get over the need to do it, to really do it well, and get over the approval and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And to me, I feel like what we're doing here and doing my show, and we're starting a new show on TYT come 2014, and all the stuff that we do together, like to me there's more of like a tangible worth in it. We can put this stuff on YouTube and it sits there and people can find out more about us and hopefully listen to what we're saying, and we can learn from them and all that. And stand-up, it's sort of like this vacuum. You do it, and then you're on a show with 10 comics, let's say, and then you walk out of there, and even if you killed, you had the best set of your life, 9 out of 10 people walk out of there going, I forgot that guy's name. Like, oh, that white guy?
That's totally true.
He was good. You've told me that. You went to a show.
So I think it was last week or the week before, I went to 3 different stand-ups, different performances. I shouldn't say just stand-ups.
Yeah.
And There were a few people that I really liked, a few people that I thought sucked, right? But I don't remember anyone's name. I don't remember anyone's name.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I tweet the amount that I do, because to me, I'm putting out thoughts that are there. They're there, and people hopefully will follow me, or at least be interested in what I'm saying, hopefully. But there's some way that they can get it back to you, and then you can continue this adventure together.
Right.
And stand-up is like, well, you do it, and then I don't know, are these comics like hoping there's agents in the crowd? And I don't even know if that really exists anymore.
Yeah.
So in the final answer to your question basically is I realized I needed something that was real, something that I was building that was real.
Yeah.
And that's what I've found here. And then the bonus of everything here is that I didn't realize how much I was going to believe in the whole thing, like believe in the things that you and Cenk believe in and that everyone here believes in, and talking about changing the system and getting the money out of politics and corporate media and all that kind of stuff. That was like a complete bonus to me, because I knew about the Young Turks, but not in the way that I now know. And that's sort of been the best part of the whole operation.
Just really quickly,
Yeah.
name one performance you gave that just totally flopped. Because I'm always fascinated with how comedians put themselves out there. They're so vulnerable, and you have to make an audience laugh. That's a really difficult thing to do. I'm not a funny person. If I'm ever funny, it's by accident. And usually it's because it's through self-deprecation or something like that.
Just like you did right there. That was funny to me.
I got a few chuckles, right?
You did. There was a laugh over there too. Look, everybody's bombed. It's just, and it's the worst thing you can possibly imagine. And seeing another comic bomb is even worse than bombing yourself in a way, because you're watching just the destruction of a human being, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then they can sense the blood and they're like sharks, and then they want you to bomb more, or the heckle will come in, and if you can't deal with it. So a lot of these guys that don't know how to improv, that just go up with the same set, I find they bomb more often, because if it gets off track for whatever reason, let's say you have a standard set, 12-minute set that you do, and you get heckled 6 minutes in, to get back to the place that you were at and have it feel organic and real is very, very difficult. So I always improv'd a lot. I would have I'd have some scraps of notes, and I'd be thinking about things on the fly. So
God,
if I was heckled or bombed, I was always able to play with it. I never felt it was that serious, I suppose. But I obviously did bomb. I have no illusions about it. I think the worst time I bombed, I can think of two in particular, but one was, I was doing a show, and this girl who I had never seen perform before, I don't even remember her name, I didn't think she was a great comic or anything, because I didn't know who she was, and she went on stage and she was phenomenal.
Really?
Told truth. I mean, I really don't even remember the specifics of what she did, but talked about God and talked about the meaning of life and why we're all here, and it was so true. And she was a little bit, she was sort of like a rapper too, so it was very like hip and like in the moment and the whole thing, and it was so raw and real, and she just killed. And when I got on stage, I don't know what, I just couldn't pick up from the energy. I think the crowd also was like, whoa, that was something. And I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was telling some jokes about the Transformers or something, but like it just felt weak, and I just bombed. And I actually,
Did you
I think
cry?
I didn't cry, but that may be the only time ever that I got off stage before the light. Because the red light, you never get off stage before the red light, but I mean, I definitely cut my set by like 6 or 7 minutes. And honestly, I have no idea what her name was or what happened to her. But yeah, it's a terrible
I could never do it. I give you a lot of credit.
Well, speaking of credit, so you're relatively newly single. Now let's get into the meat of this stuff.
Damn, now the sexy topics come up.
I said we were going to open up. We went with God.
Yeah.
We talked a little business. Now let's talk personal stuff. So you're newly single, and you were in a relationship for a long time.
I was in a 7-year relationship. I've been single for 6 months. It's kind of incredible how fast time flies. I feel like we broke up like not 6 months ago, like last weekend or something. But yeah, it's been 6 months. So I don't know if that's considered newly single, is it?
You're out there.
I'm out there.
Let's just say you're out there. So now I know obviously a lot of the insider stuff on this. But I really think that the audience would love to know like a little bit more about like how that feels for you to like have something so like steady and all that kind of thing, and then now throw yourself out there into like a new space kind of thing.
With anything new, there are upsides and downsides. So there is, of course, a lot of comfort in something that's stable, something that's predictable, and just solid. You know, there was a solid relationship there. But like with all relationships, it kind of gets to a point where you have to make a decision. You know, do you take it to the next step? Is this something that you see yourself, you know, having in your life for the rest of your life? I don't know. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm in my late 20s. Everyone around me is getting married and having children. I kind of panicked. And so I didn't know if I was ready for all of it. And so, you know, we came to a mutual agreement and we ended things. And he is a great guy, just solid guy, kind, sincere, loving, probably one of the great loves of my life. But it just didn't work out. We kind of became distant and it's over. In terms of what my life is like now, it's all over the place. I don't know. I mean, I date, I go out on dates, and even though it's been 6 months, you feel like you're cheating.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you're being unfaithful, but I'm obviously not being unfaithful because I'm single. But your relationship is sometimes just a title, right? So you can be in a relationship where you're supposed to be committed, but you're not really committed and you're cheating on each other. Or you can be broken up, but you still feel committed to that person and you feel wrong seeing other people. So I'm in this really weird place. I don't like feeling like I'm in relationship purgatory, but I feel like I'm in relationship purgatory right now.
Yeah.
But I have been on a number of dates. Some have been awful, some have been fabulous. I've learned that, you know, just like how guys have women in their lives that are nothing more than, you know, eye candy and a piece of meat, I think girls also experience something very similar. You meet a lot of guys, especially in Los Angeles, that are extremely attractive, but don't have much going on, and you just kind of have fun with it, and you walk away before it's too late. And then you meet guys that are driven and successful, and you're just like, wow, I want to build something with this guy. But the hardest part for me is getting used to the idea that if I start a new relationship, or when I start a new relationship, I will have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
You build something from scratch. And I think the most daunting part of that is knowing that in the beginning, of course the guy doesn't really care about you. Like, he cares about you, but on a very superficial level.
Right, like most likely he wants to get laid at the beginning.
Yeah, of
No matter what.
course, of course. Yeah. It's usually some shallow self-interest, and you kind of have to take a risk and see where it's going to end up, and that really, really scares me because I don't know what someone's agenda is, and I don't know what their objective is. So you put yourself out there, you take a risk, and being vulnerable is really difficult for someone who hasn't had to be in that position for 7 years.
Yeah, so speaking of being vulnerable, do you think that guys are intimidated by you? Because obviously you're beautiful, you're smart, you have a good job, career,
thank you.
all that stuff. There was a fish for compliments, it said in there. No, but you know, that you have your shit together, and I think that's probably the most intimidating thing there is when you meet someone new.
I don't know, is it?
I think so.
I mean, I don't know what goes through a guy's head. I've been on a few dates with guys that are totally worth my time, and they're wonderful, and they just, I wouldn't say that they like disappear out of nowhere, like they just seem very nonchalant about pursuing me, which is weird. And then there are guys that I'm like, about, and they're crazy about pursuing me, and I don't, it makes me so frustrated because I'm like, this guy's okay. I'll give you guys one example, okay? So, like a few months ago, there was this one guy that I went out on a date with, and of course this is after a string of terrible dates, and he was gorgeous, successful, smart. He was into politics, which is very difficult to find in Los Angeles. And athletic, I mean, he was the full package. And he seemed to be looking for a girl like me, someone who has her shit together, someone who he's attracted to, whatever. We go out, we have a drink, we have an awesome conversation, and I'm like, all right, this guy's definitely gonna call me, we're gonna see each other again. Don't hear from him for a few days, and I'm like, that's weird, maybe he's playing hard to get. And then I finally hear from him, and he had like this stupid habit of like text messaging me, and then I would write him back immediately because I don't want to play any fucking games. Okay, let's not play this, oh, I'm not going to respond for a few hours. Fuck you. Like, respond right away. Like, don't play games. I just hate that. Anyway, so he wouldn't respond until like the next day. And I'd be like, all right, I'm going to let it slide. Maybe his phone died, whatever. After we played this game over and over again for like a few weeks, he had text messaged me one night and asked if I wanted to have dinner the following day. And I wrote back to him and I was just like, Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I was really into you in the beginning, but now I've completely lost interest. I don't have the time, patience, or lack of self-respect to play games with someone like you. It's tough out there. Good luck, right?
That's what I'm talking about, a girl with their shit together.
Yeah, and he was like, wow, I'm sorry that I caused you to have such vitriol against me. And no, don't play the fucking games. If you like someone, date them, call them, go out for a drink, go out for dinner, whatever. We obviously had good chemistry, but he fucked up, right? So look, I know I kind of went on a tangent there, a huge tangent. Like when it comes to dating, I mean, I'm learning and experiencing so many new things that I feel like I could talk about this forever. But I don't know if guys are intimidated by me. I don't want to believe that that's the case, because I want to believe that there are guys out there that are strong and independent and that get attracted to women that are smart and have their shit together. Like, why can't those guys exist? Of course they exist. I'm just not running into them. It's a little unfortunate.
Damn this town. All right, we're way over on time on this, but
Sorry.
I have to ask you the key to this whole thing.
Yes.
Would you ever date a viewer of the show? I'm not setting you up in the comment section right now as much as I'm just curious if that happened to happen, would you find that to be weird if you met someone and then after a date he said, well, actually, I know who you are, and that kind of thing?
Oh, that's happened before. Yeah, that's fine. That doesn't turn me off at all.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would be hesitant to date someone who I've never met and they email me and say, hey, I heard you're single, I'm a fan of the show. Like, no,
Right.
I probably won't respond to that.
Right.
But if I happen to meet someone and he is a fan of the show and he asks me for a drink and I'm attracted to him, of course I would go out on a date. Why not?
All right.
Yeah. By the way, sometimes I use my position on the show as a way of getting a guy's attention too.
Well, I mean, you paid me to do this segment, so I'm glad.
So I'm just saying. All right. Well, that's it. Maybe now I can ask you a question.
Yeah, now you're up.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about your turn-ons. Okay. So you have been in a monogamous relationship for quite some time.
Yeah, about 2 years.
And everyone has weird things that they get turned on by, right? Do you have any of those fetishes or anything in particular that you really, really get attracted to when it comes to someone?
Wow, you weren't messing around here.
I was not messing around.
I give you the general, or you're single kind of, okay, you want the specifics. I guess I could answer this a couple of different ways. I think one thing for me is like, right now, I'm in like a very normal, good relationship, which took me a long time. I'm 37, which is why it's always funny to me when you say, oh, well, I'm in my late 20s now and I have to get my shit together. And I'm always like, I'm like 10 years older than you. Like, so I do, in a weird way, I know this is going to sound nuts, but like I'm sort of turned on by like being in something normal in a way.
Okay.
And I hate the word normal also because that doesn't really do anything real justice, because what I have is great.
Yeah.
It's not normal.
No, finding something that's solid and loving and exciting
Yeah.
at the same time is not normal. That's like
Yeah.
a really difficult thing to establish.
And I think, so like in terms of like what turns me on, like the fact that like we have a great relationship and like we work together and all kinds of stuff, so we spend a lot of time together. And like, it could be the middle of the day and like, I suddenly get horny or something and like pretty much he's ready to go.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And we're very much on that same level all the time. Like there's rarely a time where I'm like, come on, let's go. And he says, no, we're not going to do it. Or the other way around. So like that kind of stuff, like I know that doesn't involve hoods or, I don't know if you were going for chains or whips
No.
or any of that kind of stuff. But like just that, like being in something good that also is still hot to me and still like sexy and all that stuff is really, it's really good. Like that's.
How important is sexual chemistry? Because some people will emphasize it too much, others will de-emphasize it.
You know what, it's definitely, being gay is interesting in a way that like, I often say this when we've talked about gay issues on the show, like if you're 15 and you're in the closet and you can't get your regular sexual urges out normally, you can't date normally, you can't be open about who you like or even any of that kind of stuff. And even though I wasn't really thinking that much about gayness, let's say when I was 15, I knew like I really wasn't into chicks, so like I knew something was going on. But if you can't get that stuff out normally in adolescence, well, then you're going to get it out in a lot of weird ways when you're older. And I think that's sort of like it's like the Phil Robertson Duck Dynasty crazies. Like they think that gay people are all crazily acting out sexually and having crazy orgies and all that. Like I haven't been in an orgy in a long time, you know, like. And,
Wait, you've been in an orgy?
Let's just focus on one question here at a time.
Oh, okay.
Let's focus here. But the point is,
we're not going to gloss over what you just said about being in an orgy.
Hold on. So what I'm saying is that at the same time, if you then don't let these, so you
You're
take
bright
these,
red.
you
Bright
take
red.
these. It's hot in here. It's hot in here. If you take these people and then they can't grow up sexually the same, again, normal way that straight people do. And then you don't allow them to get married. The most basic, boring thing that everyone, you know, like every sitcom ever is just the woman, you know, and that's overbearing and the man that just wants to watch sports and be left alone. But if you don't give gay people the opportunity to be as boring as everyone else, then they are going to act in different ways. And I think I also think this is one of the things that the gay community is like secretly afraid of, is that one day we will have full equality and we will be just like straight people. And that's a gay person's nightmare. To be as boring as, look, I obviously have a lot of straight friends. Most of my friends probably are straight. But like when I'm with my straight guy friends, like it's pretty boring relative to hanging out with my gay guy friends or even my girlfriends. We hung out last night with a bunch of your friends and we had a great time. Like we didn't talk about just, like I could talk about sports all the time, but like we didn't talk about that kind of stuff. Like it was just more fun. It was just different. So as far as that other situation, the orgy situation, guys can disassociate sex from everything else very easily. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's, so to go to the original answer of your question of what gets me off and why I like being in a functional, good relationship and why I think that's hot is because I did the other thing. Like I did the other thing enough. Like the emotionless or whatever you want to call that. So when you add that part to it, it feels a lot fuller. It feels a lot better. I know that's like corny and whatever, but
I like that.
But yeah,
I want to find that one day.
That's the truth.
You know, that's a really sweet story. I like that a lot.
Wait, the foursome or the relationship
both,
thing?
Both, yeah.
You know, I think what we do here really is different and special, and we're sort of blazing the trail in the online video and media, and people are so sick of cable news and Fox and MSNBC and CNN, and it's all so awful. But there are sacrifices that we have to make. We obviously, as on-air people, we don't get paid as much as you would. We're not getting television money. There's exposure, things that we don't get, that kind of thing. I believe that all will turn around, and we're in the front end of it. But do you ever think of going more mainstream?
No.
Like, does that desire, it's not in you at all?
Very minimal. And the only reason why I ever have that desire is when I get an offer where I can do both. So I would never ever leave TYT to go work in the mainstream. And I get it, never say never, but I've gotten offers, you know, and the reason why I haven't done it, even though it pays significantly more, is because I have to live with myself at the end of the day, you know, and I have days at TYT where I feel like, you know what, I don't think that I did the audience a service. Like, I don't feel like I did as well as I should have done in the show. I should have been more informative. I should have gotten more details on the story. I should have investigated more. So I have those days. But the vast majority of the time, I feel really proud of this company, of what my role is in this company, and I feel fulfilled. And as long as you're making a salary that allows you to live, to afford the bare necessities, it's much more important to be fulfilled by what you do than to make millions of dollars and hate what you do.
Yeah.
So there have been moments where, you know, we've collaborated with other networks or done other things, and I was making more money as a result of that, and I hated life. I just was not happy. I was not fulfilled doing that. I love doing the online portion of the show, but then we would have to, like, I don't know, work with whatever company, and there have been a number of them, and their core mission differs from ours significantly. You feel like you're being censored. You feel like you're working in a corporate environment. I don't want to work in that kind of environment. Yeah. Here at TYT, luckily, we're still small enough where it feels like a family.
Yeah.
And I want to maintain that. I mean, I don't know how much it'll change as the company grows, but I love feeling as though I have two families, my blood family, my blood related family, and my work family. And you guys are, you know, such a huge part of my happiness in my life. I come into work every day and I'm usually in a good mood. Very rarely do I come in a bad mood. And it's because I wake up and I look forward to what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think this was implied in your answer, but do you also think of the other sacrifices that you would have to make to be on the other side? Like if, like, not that cursing is that important to you, but you couldn't curse if you were on CNN, or things like, even things that you might tweet. You know, if you take a drunken selfie, that like if you were on network news, you know, if Dana Bash or someone on CNN took a drunken selfie, it would be on Drudge for a day, and people would be going berserk. And that because of the nature of the online thing here, we're sort of flying under the radar, and it allows you to be a human too.
Yeah.
I think that's what we have here. That's the part that I didn't realize, that we're all able to be humans.
Yes.
And I can still talk about the things that I want to talk about. You know, they all seem like robots, the cable news people. They're afraid to put stuff out there because they don't, you know, want to get that backlash that we don't get just by the nature of where we do it.
Right. I totally agree with you. I love the fact that I can be real with the audience. I can be real with myself. I don't have to put on a show, right? Like I put on a show, but not in terms of who I am as a person.
Right, like this is where I feel like when the cameras go on, something does happen. There's some little different thing. So, but I feel like we turn it up 5%.
Yeah.
Where these guys turn it on like 90% to become these things.
Right.
And we are just, it's just enough to know that these people are out here.
I mean, the jokes that I make on the show, they're not written by anyone else. It's just, it comes from my own mind, and sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not, whatever. Most of the time they're corny and cheesy, but I love the fact that I can be myself. I love the fact that I can gesture the way I like to gesture. Like I speak with my hands, I dance, like I do whatever the fuck I want on the show. I just did what you can't do on CNN or Fox or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, being true to yourself is a huge plus side of working for an online network like TYT. It's great. I love it. I feel like the luckiest person on the planet, because when I graduated college, you know, the only thing that I learned in school was, hey, you're only going to succeed if you graduate and you go to a small market, like, I don't know, you start off in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's not even a small market, actually. And you work your way up to either Los Angeles or New York, and you're going to work in local news, and maybe if you're lucky, you'll work in network news. And it's like, that path doesn't have to be the only one now because of new media, and it's really exciting. I can do whatever I want. One quick thing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I also love that, you know, and this isn't true of all online networks, so, you know, don't get it twisted, I guess, but with TYT, I'm not under contract. That's really rare to find. So one thing that I love is the fact that Cenk and Steve both encourage me to go do projects outside of TYT, because I'm like a representative of the network. So if I go out there and I do other things, that's not a bad thing. They don't see it as competition. They see it as, oh, look at Anna. She's known for her role here at TYT, and now she's spreading the word about our network on a different network. Why not? When you go work at CNN or whatever, they have these ridiculous contracts where they just do not allow you to make appearances anywhere else. Yeah. And they're shooting themselves in the foot by doing that. It's stupid.
Yeah, and it's not just CNN. It's a lot of even some of the other online ones. So it's things that are much smaller, and that goes to the credit of TYT.
There was one network that offered me so much money. So much money. It was upward of...
It was pretty good.
Should I say the number?
I don't think so.
No, okay, it was a lot of money. Yeah. But they said that I had to be exclusive. Yeah. And so I was like, no. Yeah. I have to be able to do both. If I can't do both, then I'm not going to take this money. All right, is it my turn now?
It's your turn.
It is my turn.
That was you were answering that question.
I was answering that question. All right. So I feel like with most things in life, whether it's relationships or careers and, you know, family life, we come across a lot of different challenges. What is one challenge from your past that really stands out the most and kind of made you turn into the person that you are today? That defining moment in your life.
Oh man, that's a good one. Wow, you weren't messing around. I mean, for me, absolutely coming out was the most important thing that I've done. You know, I played sports when I was a kid. I played video games. I care as much about Star Wars as I do about Golden Girls. So my gayness is, I always feel like up for negotiation with people. People say, you're not gay enough. And I'm like,
that's ridiculous.
Right, like everyone is different. Everyone is absolutely different. But I think because of that, I somehow had it in my brain at some point that if you don't like theater, now I got no problem with the theater, but I'm not a theater queen, as they call them. Like, if you don't like theater, or I can dance, but when I dance, I have to be really drunk, and it's like Bill Cosby. So, like, the things that people associated with gayness were not things that I cared about. But I was attracted to guys, so that's pretty gay, right? That seems gay enough.
I think that's by definition gay.
That's gay, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's start there, but that's not how it starts. It seems to start with all the other stuff, and then, oh, you sleep with dudes. But let's start that way.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time. I mean, I was closeted definitely into my mid-20s, and even into my late 20s, and it screwed up my relationships. It screwed up my, things with my family that I've since repaired. But even my best friend John, who I'm friends with since I'm 4 years old, I mean, I remember meeting him right before kindergarten, 4 years old. We've been friends for over 30 years. He now has a son who's 12 or something. And even him, I didn't come out to him until I was 25. And when I said to him I'm gay, and he said that's great, and that was it. And that was it. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but it's an inside job. I think that's the best thing I ever heard about it. Joy Behar was once talking on The View not about being gay, but something about that, and she just said it's an inside job, and most things are an inside job. You just create a world in your head, and especially if you don't talk about it. That's why coming out is so important, and that's why it's called a closet, because there's only room for one in a closet. But when you open up that door, then you're in a much wider world. That there's a lot more truth and a lot more decency and all that kind of stuff. So it took me a long time, and it definitely saved my life, because you have to be who you are. You have to be who you are. Ironically, though, there is definitely a part of me that every now and again, I remember what that was like, and it's scary to know that it was there, because I don't regret anything, because I made it out, and I'm okay, and I'm doing what I want to do and living a good life. But but knowing that I put myself through that, and also the world's changed a lot in the last, like now it's like cool to be gay.
Yeah.
Even 5 years, right? It's trendy, so everybody's gay now. But like 2.5 years ago, the president wasn't for gay marriage.
Right.
So things have changed tremendously, and I hope. I'm a firm believer that in terms of the rights and all that stuff, like once you start with that stuff, and we're seeing it, even Utah just, got gay marriage a couple days ago, and I think Ohio maybe today. And that once you unleash rights, it's like a wave, and you can't stop it. You can't put all this water back in a cup. It's just, you can't stop it. But I then do fear, I said to you the other day that this Duck Dynasty thing, it's so stupid, but that there's this group of people in this country that are still so stuck in this religious thing, and then at the same time they said that Mike Huckabee might run for president again and bring up this Christian coalition thing again, that we could go backwards in some ways. So I do fear that a little bit. But in terms of my own life, getting that just sort of, it took me too long to
be true to
myself. It took me too long to be true to myself, and that's. Again, I don't regret it, because here I am, but I wish in retrospect that I had been a little easier on myself, I suppose.
Definitely.
Or it had, when I think back now, like there was no reason that I couldn't have, I have a great family and I have great friends, that I somehow misjudged everything.
Yeah.
And that I thought, oh, I can't tell these people this, or something horrible was going to happen. So interestingly, when I was coming out to people, I would come out to one person. And my policy always was, I'll come out to one person, and if I feel better after, then this must be good. Yeah. And every time that I did, I felt better. And not only did I feel better, like I physically felt better. It wasn't just mental. I physically, I used to have hair here, and it's in the closet. That's where it is, because it doesn't fall out anymore, but it used to when I was stressed. And I could feel it, because you're walking, that's the thing, you will do things that it's not normal. That's not how you should.
You were living a double life,
yeah.
right?
And it's hard to live one life.
Yeah.
Try one life. That's hard enough, right?
One life to live.
So imagine living two, and like all kinds of crazy things. I lived with guys after college that were like my college friends, that we all played sports together, and I just didn't feel like I'm the gay one, but I'm the best basketball player in the group. That doesn't make any sense. And they'd all go out, and I'd have SportsCenter on, and the second they'd go out, I'd flip it to Showtime so I could watch Queer as Folk, but I'd keep my finger on the last button on the remote, so if someone walked in, I could immediately go back to SportsCenter. It was crazy. It was, but it was an inside job, and at the end of the day, here we are. So it was a challenge, but most challenges, if you come out on the other side, you're better for it.
So incredible that you finally managed to get to that point. And I don't blame you for taking as long as you did. You're right. You kind of grew up in a different time. It wasn't until very recently that people became more tolerant and accepting of the gay community.
Yeah. So last thought on this is that, and that's why it's so important for these people simply just to come out, because that's far more important than the images that they put on TV or that kind of stuff. People just need to be themselves, because by you coming out, you will affect your family. You will affect this group of people, and you will affect your friends, and that is far more worthwhile than what, seeing a gay person in a movie or some ridiculous gay stereotype on Bravo or something like that. So that to me is the best thing that you can do. And final question for you. I think this one has the same kind of gravity. So with all the stuff that we do here and telling truth to power and fighting the media and trying to hold both sides to account and all that stuff that we don't see in mainstream media, what I want to know from you is, where does it come from within you? What is it about you that makes you want to fight this fight? Because it's not an easy fight. There are sacrifices that we've made. I'm sure career-wise, we've probably made sacrifices, when we were just talking about that, and financial sacrifices. So what is it within you, do you think, where does that come from, that says, no, I'm going to get a big offer and say, no, I still want to fight this fight and do this? Because a lot of people don't.
We live in a really scary time in America. So I was in high school. It was my freshman year when 9/11 happened, and I remember just watching the country crumble in every aspect after that day. Our civil liberties were violated, and they continue to be violated. The economy was destroyed, and I was scared. I was scared because we kind of sat back and allowed it to happen. And so, we did a lot of analysis on mainstream media when I was in school, and I just remember thinking, like, really? But this article that's written in the New York Times is so apologetic toward the Bush administration, considering we just invaded a country preemptively. That's not right, and it sets a terrible precedent. I remember being in high school and thinking these things. And so the entire system as a whole was broken. And one of the things that I loved doing, I went to a super hippie school. We had something called Peace Day, and it was an annual thing. One Peace Day, they asked me to come give a speech on politics, right? Any political issue I wanted to. And so I did the speech, and it was one of the most exciting moments in high school, which proves that I'm a complete and utter nerd. Like, who gets excited about that in high school? But anyway, and so I realized I love politics and I love journalism. I was like, I want to be a political reporter. But what does that even mean? So when I graduated and I started working at CBS Radio, I realized that I wasn't doing anything remotely close to what I wanted. And I was so unhappy because I was this production assistant and I'm getting yelled at by an editor who wants his copies immediately, but I took like 2 seconds too long to get it to him. It was fucking horrible. No. Fucking hated that job, okay? And I watched the anchors on the station just read scripts that were written to them. There was no critical thinking. There was no analysis. There was no opinion. And I get that people want news without opinion in some cases. But the reality is that if you give people the complete facts and then you analyze the news, there is some importance to that. There's some value to that. So anyway, fast forward to TYT. The first time I watched the show, it was obviously my very first day of work here. I was hired as a temp. I wasn't supposed to be here longer than 2 weeks, and now I'm the co-host of the show. It's kind of crazy. I remember watching Cenk and Ben talk about the the Bush administration, and they were obviously highly critical. And it was like a breath of fresh air. I was amazed by what they were doing. And keep in mind, I'm going into this office at 3 in the morning, okay? The office was like this small, dingy, kind of stinky place. It looked like, they had built it overnight. It was like falling apart. I'm like, what is this? What is this Air America that they speak of, right? They were on Air America at the time. And it looked like there's a phrase, Mickey Mouse job. Like, it looked like somebody came in and built like a Mickey Mouse set. Like, it was just ridiculous. But the message was so incredible to me, and it was so refreshing. So I wanted to be part of it, knowing that I would take a huge risk by leaving CBS and working for a company that was essentially a startup. And after Air America, we didn't know what the hell was going to happen. We didn't know where we were going to go, but I wanted to be part of it because I believed in the message so much. So the reason why I say all of this is because I want to be part of something that achieves for the greater good, achieves something for the greater good. I want to inform people. I don't want to entertain people. Of course I want to entertain people as well. We do a fair amount of that, especially in the second hour of the show. But I want to feel that the company as a whole does some sort of service for our country, does some sort of service for the world, because since we're on the internet, we get to inform the entire planet, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Well, anyone who has internet connection, let's keep it real.
Right.
And there's something really great about that. And I don't know where it comes from and why I'm so passionate about it. I just know that I am, and I want to follow that passion and do as much as I can with it. And by the way, living a life without passion sounds pretty shitty.
Pretty awful,
right? Like, I don't want to, I mean, some people are passionate about being accountants, don't get me wrong, but like, I could make a ton of money being like a finance officer at a car dealership or an accountant or whatever the fuck, right? But I would be so miserable with my life because I wouldn't be passionate about it. So find what you love, pursue it, don't stop at anything. There will be obstacles, there will be moments where you think you might be living on the street because you're not getting paid enough, but just go for it. Trust me, if you're persistent, I would say 90% of success is persistence. 90%.
Work. You
Just
gotta have
show
a little
up.
talent and then work.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said.
So the last question I wanted to ask you about is something that I've been asking a lot of my friends lately. I did a vlog on it recently as well. Regrets. What is your biggest regret from your past? I mean, there's a possibility that you have absolutely no regrets, but I think everyone has one thing that they would change from their past.
Yeah. I'm going to quote Joy Behar twice while we're interviewing here. There was another time I saw her perform live, and she said something about how she had this Aunt Rose, and this was like this old woman who didn't have a lot of money, wasn't very attractive, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of her life, she was just this great lady, and even on her deathbed, she was saying that she had no regrets. And then Joy juxtaposed that with some French actress who I guess was really beautiful and a huge, huge star. And that later in her life, when she was in her 80s or something, she was interviewed, and the interviewers, asked her if she had any regrets, and she had this long list of regrets. And that it struck Joy as so funny that this beautiful woman who had had so much success had this long list of regrets, and this very average woman who maybe never did that much or whatever had no regrets. So I bring that up because it sort of goes to what we were talking about before, that I don't know that I have any regrets per se because it got me to an okay place, so whatever it did. But as I said before, I wish I had been a little easier on myself for sure. So I guess the regret there is I wish I had been a little better than I was, which probably most people think that all the time. You always want to be better, I guess, than you are.
Better at what? Like
I guess self-acceptance.
I see.
Or,
okay.
And you know what? At the same time, like a lot of that craziness, stand-ups are these depressed, warped people with this weird sense of the world and blah blah blah. I just think everybody's got a warped sense of the world and sees things oddly. People think it's interesting that someone that maybe makes people laugh isn't thrilled all the time, isn't hysterically laughing all the time, but it would be impossible. Of course, if you see something differently and then you make people laugh about it, it comes from a deep desire to tell the truth. So I guess my regret would be I wish I would have been a little easier on myself. But in terms, I want to try to think of something really that I did that I regret.
Was there anyone from your past that you might have mistreated and you wish you can go back and kind of apologize to them about it?
That's good. That's really good. Wait, give me a second here.
We're getting deep here.
Yeah,
okay?
Can we put some elevator music on while I think here for a second?
Because you strike me, I mean, when we met, I was like immediately drawn to you. I'm like, I like him. I want to be his friend, right? Like we hit it off pretty quickly. So I find it so hard to ever imagine you being mean to anyone. But there are people that you just don't jive with, and you just kind of.
Yeah, look, I can't think of a specific a person that I did something like really like appallingly horrible to that I haven't made amends for. Really, I've definitely had relationships. I'm not talking about personal, romantic relationships. I've had business relationships and things that didn't work out the way I intended. I always tried to do everything in the most honest and upfront way as I possibly could, but not everything works out the way you want to, no matter how much you try. But even those types of things, I don't regret them because everything sort of led me to even where I'm at now here with TYT and doing this kind of stuff with you. Like, it's just another step on the adventure that I don't know where it leads exactly. God, I mean, I must have hurt somebody. If you're out there and I hurt you, please put a comment there and I will address it. I will gladly make another video and address it.
Were you ever bullied in high school or anything like that? Or were you the bullier?
That's funny because
bully?
we lightly discussed this once on the Young Turks during a panel, and I think I was probably bullied as much as I bullied. And I think that's truly the way most people are. I know it's very cool to be like, oh, I was bullied all the time, and there's this thing, we have this crazy thing with bullying now, and I'm not diminishing what it can do to kids, and especially in an age of Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But I think somehow it's become very cool if you're an adult to be like, oh, well, I was bullied and look at me now. But I think most of us did both. So I'm sure I can think of kids that I bullied, like that I made fun of, and walking down the hallway and I'd knock their trapper keeper out of the way. Well, you know what? Somebody did it to me too. So I think I was probably very in the middle of the bully thing, and I always felt that way. Like even in high school, like I wasn't really cool and I wasn't a nerd. I was like right in the middle of it. And I remember thinking at one point, it would be work to be cool. Like I would have to work to get these people's approval all the time. And so I liked where I was at. I really did, because I was like, I have my friends, we played a lot of video games. Like I didn't even have a beer in high school. Literally did not have a beer. Wow. My first beer was at a graduation party from high school. Never smoked weed, nothing. College, a whole other experience. But
I was pretty good in high school as well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I didn't drink until I was 20. I got a fake ID at 20. I couldn't wait one more year. I got that fake ID.
Yeah.
And I was going to clubs and stuff at 20, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I went wild.
All right, well, speaking of going wild, we're going to do a club thing. That's what we decided last night. And on that note, I really want to thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this and that it wasn't too self-indulgent, two people talking about themselves for 45 minutes. Oh, my God.
Not at all.
I especially want to thank Anna, of course.
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys for all watching. We started this thing in March of this year, and it's grown, and I'm really proud of what we've done. And this is just the beginning, and we're starting some new stuff in January that I'm really psyched about. We got one more show next week. I'm going to have Jimmy Dore and Steve O, two of the TYT All-Stars, to do our year in review. And have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy belated Hanukkah, Happy pre-Kwanzaa. Did I miss anything else in there?
Not that I know of.
New Year and all that good stuff. All right, thank you very much. Bye.